Hi, I'm Ben Meyer.
And I'm Rob Wright.
And I'm Travis Meacham.
And we're doing Second Take here live from BlizzCon 2008 here in Anaheim, California. I was really impressed at how big and popular this conference is. I mean, it's a lot of people enthused about PC games, so woohoo!
Yes.
We're going to skip over World of Warcraft. I'm sorry, World of Warcraft fans. There is an expansion coming out, Wrath of the Lich King. It's coming out soon. Hope you enjoy it. We're going to focus on the other two big titles here that they're demoing. The first being Diablo 3. Some big news out about Diablo 3, and I'm going to let Travis talk about that. So, Travis, tell us about your impressions of playing the game and the news.
Well, I was able to play Diablo 3 for about an hour today in the press room, and the first impressions that I get from it is that it's very much about power and size and lights. The new class that they mentioned was the Wizard class, which is sort of a spin-off of the Sorcerer from Diablo 2. And she's got lightning attacks, tornado attacks, which you mentioned. They brought that up in the panel. It's the nuker. It's the glass cannon, as they're called. A lot of high-energy, ranged attacks that can wipe out. You know, there's a I forget. It was like a fire laser. Disintegrate was the name of the spell. And you just sweep it across enemies, and they just all disintegrate. But it's very much about power. The barbarian hits things. They smash into pieces. They don't just fall down dead. The witch doctor lobs fire skulls, and they don't just burn it. It's a giant explosion of a person. So it's very much size, power, and lights, and that's what Diablo 3 is doing.
And a lot of the deaths are they're all individualized and specialized, and then they have the rune system. I mean, there's just a lot of ways to blow stuff up. It really got the crowd going as well.
It did, yeah. Blizzard, they know what the gamers want. They know how to please their audience. When they mentioned the rune system, they showed the different, you can customize each skill and each spell, so if one guy casts the Flaming Skull, some other guy with a different rune is going to look different. The death animations you mentioned, death animations per skill, per class, per enemy, is going to be, Diablo 3 is all about watching enemies die horribly. So to make that interesting, Blizzard has gone to great lengths, and I think they've success.
What do you think the biggest difference that you have seen between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3?
Well, the graphics are one thing. I mean, it's a beautiful 3D engine now. The levels are still two-dimensional, but you can see the levels underneath. So it looks 3D, but it essentially is a 2D game still. There's a lot of physics involved. The environments are destructible in some ways. You can use that against your enemies. So it's a step up from Diablo 2, but it still feels like Diablo, and I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, the other big game, obviously, StarCraft 2. By the time this goes to air, you probably already heard about the big announcement with StarCraft 2, but I'll let Rob comment about this title. Rob, talk to us about the changes going on with StarCraft 2.
Well, obviously a big announcement at the show, and fans reacted very happily to it. The game is going to ship in 3 separate parts. StarCraft 2 is going to be a trilogy. Each single-player campaign is going to be its own separate game. Now, the first version of StarCraft 2 is going to ship with the Terran campaign, and it's going to include the multiplayer. All 3 games are going to include the multiplayer, but the single-player campaigns have been expanded. They're going to, instead of including maybe 10 or 12 missions per race, each campaign is going to have upwards of 30. And I think it's pretty interesting. I definitely think what happened here was Blizzard was working on a lot of content, big storyline, and they wanted to make sure that they got all of it in. The interesting thing is that there's no timeline yet for these games, which is sad. During the opening ceremony at the event, they said basically that it's not ready for beta, and they don't really have any timeline for release. And in terms of the different chapters, the different campaigns, it's probably going to be a year or more in between each release. So the Terran campaign, the Wings of Liberty, that's going to be the first one to ship. The second one, the Zerg campaign, is called Heart of the Swarm. That's going to come next. And then the third and final one, the Protoss campaign, Legacy of the Void. And, who knows when that one's going to come out. But honestly, the audience was, they were thrilled, apparently, at this announcement of getting more content. So.
Well, you did get a chance to play StarCraft 2 a bit, and what are your impressions from that?
I liked it a lot, but I realized that pretty early on that it felt like the original StarCraft, almost down to a T, and that it doesn't feel very different. It feels like the game has been upgraded with new graphics engine, new animation, and there's some subtle changes here and there, but for the most part, it feels very, very much like the original StarCraft. And it's not a bad thing. There's some, like I said, subtle changes to the different units and different races. One interesting thing that Blizzard has been harping on is the fact that there are going to be unique units and some big changes in the single player campaign that you won't have in the multiplayer.
Yeah, and I noticed that the single player, they're also focusing a lot more on story development, with cinematics and with just all kind of plot lines that they're really getting into a lot more than they did with the original StarCraft.
Yes, definitely, and that's a big thrust for them. They wanted to redefine storytelling and focus on that and making it epic and really giving it sort of the treatment, the StarCraft universe, the treatment it deserves. So.
Yeah, a lot more character development too. Now, not everybody kind of agreed with the excited assessment of that StarCraft 2 announcement. There were some cheers, but Travis, you have a bit of a differing opinion about this. Why don't you tell us a little about that?
Well, during the announcement, when they first announced that they were doing the 3 different products, to me it really felt like that this was a quick money grab situation, and that really stinks of Activision. Like, that does not feel like Blizzard at all. Blizzard makes good quality games. They have a perfect track record. I'm a big Blizzard fan. I love StarCraft, love Diablo, and this didn't feel like Blizzard. This felt like Activision saying, why not make StarCraft 3 times and release it for 3 times as much and release it over the course of 3 or 4 years. So, I would prefer to get the game as one package and have it be great and solid and not have any fluff and filler and not have any bloated missions in the middle that don't make sense. For instance, during the demo, the mission they showed was surprisingly a Terran mission where you have to defend a base from Zerg attack for 20 minutes. That sounds awfully familiar to me. That's right, it was in the first game, the exact same mission, and that was the mission they showed in the demo. And to me, if this is your demo and you're showing your best stuff, you don't show missions that are familiar. I mean, show me something new. So yeah, I felt like that the 3 product was not, the 3 product release is not the way to go. But we spoke with lead producer Chris Siggety, and he kind of assuaged my fears. He mentioned that they decided this course of release for the 3 products before the Activision merger, that the needs of the story defined that, and that they weren't going for a quick money grab situation. I'm still worried that the other 2 releases are not going to come out for 10 years, but what are you going to do? It's going to be StarCraft, and we're going to have to wait for the other parts. It's not that bad, I guess.
I think everybody knows when the game comes out, it's probably going to be awesome. Yeah. But that's all the time we have for this week here at BlizzCon. For Rob Wright and Travis Meacham, I'm Ben Meyer, and we'll see you next time.